Morning. This is Misty Ralston of Ralston Law, and this is our first installment of our frequently asked questions series. I'm going to be taking the time in the next few weeks to discuss some frequently asked questions in order to help you, my clients, my potential clients, and just the public at large learn a little bit about estate planning, what it actually means, and why it's important for everyone to have some sort of estate plan in place in case, God forbid, something does happen. So the first one is going to be a question I get most often, and that is, what exactly is a will? So what is a will and why do I need one? A will is a legal document where you get to choose and you say who's going to get what of your assets, of your property, of the things that you own, and who is in charge of making sure that that's going to happen. Now, someone who's named in a will is your heir or your beneficiary. And we all know we want to be heirs. We want to be beneficiaries. We've also seen Brewster's Millions back in the 80s. If you're young and you haven't seen it, you definitely got to watch it. But we all want that long lost relative from the past that we never met to send us a letter stating, hey, you've been named as an heir in this document, in this will, and you are now getting millions of dollars. Fortunately, that's not happens to the rest of us, right? But we all have something. We all have property that needs to be disposed of, and we all have potential property. What I mean by that is we all have, sadly, things that could happen that could cause our death, that would mean an estate, the people that are left behind may file actually an action or a lawsuit because of a wrongful death. You know, you were in a car accident and you die, and there's an insurance or claim. And there's money that comes from that claim. Okay, that goes into your estate. And what's going to happen to that money? Who's going to receive that money? The will is going to tell your estate and your personal representative what to do with that. Okay, same thing as a personal injury case, a medical malpractice, something like that. You're in a car accident. You're in a, I said the car accident. You're in a flight coming home, and the plane crashes. You go in for an appendectomy and something goes wrong. You're having a baby and you died during childbirth. There's a lot of times where after you're gone, the lawsuit is filed, and the will is going to take advantage of that and say, here's what I would want to happen with any assets that I have, and that would be included in that. Okay, so that's what your will is going to do, and that's what your heir is. Now, the person who's going to be in charge of making sure that everything you said and wanted to happen happens, that's going to be called your personal representative or executor. Okay, you're going to name that person in your will, and this is going to be someone that you trust, and you're going to say, hey, listen, I need your help here. You're going to be the one who's going to be in charge of taking care of everything. And there's some questions that you need to ask yourself about that as well, and how much trust and faith you're going to put into that person. Now, sometimes property is going to be owned by you solely. Sometimes you have property that's owned by you as someone else. And it's important for you to recognize in your will what happens with those items, especially those items that are jointly held and there's no right of survivorship. It's not noted that it goes to my spouse. You know, I own a property with 6 of my siblings. My portion of the property, what's going to happen if something were to happen to me that day? Okay, great. There's also property that you have that you take care of before you even have a will, or in spite of having a will. And that's usually things that it's a benefit through your employer. You have a life insurance policy that's 1 times your salary, or 1.5%, or 1.5 times your salary, right? You have a 401k or a profit sharing or 403b or an IRA, something like that, right? And when you fill out the paperwork, it says, put down who you want named as the beneficiary. You know, when you're young, you may name your siblings or your parents. When you're older, you're going to name your children, your nieces and nephews, your spouse. You want to make sure that that will that you create, and it is critical for your estate plan to have a will, you want to make sure that it is in sync with everything that's owned jointly and every beneficiary that you've named outside of the will. You want to make sure that this is not I've done it once, I put it on a shelf and I'm done, because things change. You leave employers. So you could have 5 different 401ks with 5 different beneficiaries. Do you want that? Or do you want it to go to a certain person? You want it to go to your kids, you want it to go to your spouse. Blended families, this is very important for. You have 2 kids with one spouse, and now you have another child with another spouse. Do you want that child added to those 401ks? Are you allowed to? Is there a marital agreement that says something? You want to make sure that your will matches those beneficiary designations that you've done on those other documents. You want to make sure that they're completely synced. And if you make a change to one, you're going to want to make a change to the other. It's important that you do so. It's one of the reasons why here at Ralston Law, we feel that it is so important to our clients that we have you come in every 3 years at the minimum to go over your plan and make sure that there's nothing that needs to be changed. The last thing we want is for something to happen and your family and your friends and your loved ones are caught unaware. And now there's a court hearing, lawsuit, contesting of the will that's going to cost a lot of time, money, and hurt feelings on something that could have been resolved so easily. Keeping your family out of court and conflict is one of my main goals. I did taxes for 15 years, and people will ask me sometimes, they'll say, hey, Misty, can't I do my own will? And I'm like, yeah, you can do your own will just like you can do your own taxes. But unlike taxes, where in about 18 months, it does take about 18 months, you get a letter from the IRS saying you made a mistake. And then you bang your head against the table and you cry and you call me and you say, can you help me? Well, hopefully you don't call me anymore. I refer you to a friend, but you would call me and say, Misty, I need some help. I did my own taxes and I messed up. It's not going to be you making that call if there's a mistake with your will and other documents that you've signed and them not being in sync. It's not going to be you. It's going to be your spouse who's grieving your loss. It's going to be your kids. It's going to be your parents. It's going to be nieces or nephews. It's going to be those that you've left behind that now has to deal with that on top of everything else that they're dealing with at your loss. So don't do that to your family, okay? If you are going to try and do the will yourself, have someone look over it and make sure that it's complete and exactly what you need. And it's saying what you want. And you just haven't assumed that it's saying that. That's very, very important. Understand too that if you have a will, it's going to go through probate. Now, we're lucky in New Jersey, probate is not as complex and not as difficult as it is in some states. There are some states it can take years to get through probate. In New Jersey, it could take 6 to 9 months. It could take longer, absolutely, but it's more streamlined, it's less intrusive, and it's a lot easier than many, many states. And we're lucky for that in New Jersey. But it does have to, will does have to be filed with the probate court. It has to be reviewed. It has to be approved. The personal representative that you've put in your place, your executor, your executress, is going to gather your assets. They're going to pay any creditors that might be owed money. And then when all that's said and done, whether they have to sell a house, sell the car, sell your for me, my prize Babylon 5 doll collection. For you, it could be your Disney collection. They're going to take everything and then they're going to distribute that to your heirs, to the people you've named that you want to have that, okay? A lot of people think that a will is this magical document and it's easy and it's just you're going to snap your fingers and everyone's going to get what they want and it's going to cover every estate planning scenario out there. It doesn't. There's a lot you can put in your will. You can put in your will to have trust created if your children are under a certain age, so the money doesn't go to the state and the state handles it. You can have provisions put in there if one of your children gets special needs. Something happens to them, they get brain damaged. They're in an accident, they have a bad medical outcome. Anything can happen, right? And they now have special needs and they're going to qualify for Social Security. You want to make sure that money doesn't disqualify them, especially when it comes to Medicaid, because there are so many programs that can help people that you want to make sure that they're able to get through Medicaid. It's not a magical document that just assumes it knows. It has to be in there. So that's what a will is. That's why you need one. To let your family and friends know what you want, to make sure they're protected, to make sure they're taken care of the way that you want, and to make sure, most importantly, that everybody knows why you did what you did and what you did. And it's also the reason why at Ralston Law we do have our family meetings available. We can do it via Zoom, we can do it in the office, but it gives you a chance to tell those beneficiaries, those heirs, this is what I did and this is why. You know, I gave Jenny $10,000 for a down payment on her house. Johnny's getting an extra $10,000 in the will. I'm giving the house to this child because I know that they need a house. They have bad credit. They have too many student loans. They don't have a great enough job that they could ever get a mortgage. They're getting the house, but all my life insurance proceeds and 401ks are going to go to you guys to even things out. Everyone has a reason what they want to do. This allows you to have that reasoning told to your heirs. Make sure there's less fighting, less controversy, less contesting, and all in all, keep your family together when you're not there to keep them together. Okay, so that's my very first frequently asked questions session. We're going to have more coming in the future, and I hope you enjoy seeing them. Have a great day.